The massive alien ship moved through space like a silver ghost. Its hull gleamed with technology that could bend light and time. Admiral Veltar stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back. His species had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 3,000 years. They knew every ship, every race, every threat that existed in their territory. "Admiral," called his sensor officer, "we have detected an unknown vessel." Veltar turned his large head toward the screen. The ship that appeared before them looked primitive. It was made of basic metal, scarred and damaged. Smoke leaked from several holes in its side. The design was simple and crude compared to their advanced vessels. "Run a full scan," Veltar ordered. "Identify the species and their technology level." The unknown ship drifted silently through space. Inside, Captain Hyeon Woo pressed his hand against a bleeding cut on his forehead. The bridge around him was dark except for emergency lights. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. The smell of burning metal filled the air. "Mi-young, how are our engines?" Han Woo asked into his communicator. The voice that came back was, "Tired, but steady. Captain, the quantum drives are completely offline. We lost 3 fusion reactors in the fight. I need at least 6 hours to get us moving again." Han Woo nodded. The battle with the pirates had been brutal. They had won, but barely. His ship, the UES Indomitable, was badly damaged. Many of his crew were hurt or dead. But they were still alive, and that was what mattered? "Taemin, any word from command?" Hyeon Woo asked his communications officer. Tae-min looked up from his station. Blood ran down his arm from a deep cut, but he ignored it. "No, sir, we're too far from any friendly ships. We're on our own out here." The bridge crew worked quietly around their captain. Each person focused on their job despite their injuries. This was normal for them. They had been fighting wars their entire lives. Pain was just something you worked through. On the alien ship, the scanning results were coming in. Science Officer HFY stared at the data with growing confusion. The numbers made no sense. "Admiral, the scan is complete," HFY reported. "But the results are ... strange," explain, Veltar said. "The ship appears to be from a species we have never encountered. Their technology is very basic. Simple fusion power, crude weapons, basic metal construction, but ... But what?" HFY's voice became uncertain. "The biological scans show the crew is still alive and working. All of them, despite massive trauma to their bodies." Veltar moved to look at the screen. The scan showed the inside of the human ship. Creatures moved through the corridors. They walked upright on 2 legs like many species. But something was wrong with the readings. "These life signs," Veltar said slowly. "Are you certain the scanner is working correctly?" "I have run the scan 3 times, Admiral. The readings are accurate." The screen showed dozens of the creatures working throughout their damaged ship, but according to the biological data, many of them should be dead. The scanner detected broken bones, internal bleeding, radiation poisoning, and severe injuries throughout their bodies. "How are they still functioning?" Veltar asked. On the human ship, Dr. Sojin moved through the medical bay. Her left arm was in a makeshift sling, but she used her right hand to treat the wounded. Marines and crew members lay on beds and tables around her. Some had burns covering half their bodies. Others had metal pieces sticking out of their arms and legs. "Doc, when can I get back to my station?" asked Du-Hyeon. The gunner had 3 broken ribs and was coughing up blood, but his eyes were alert and focused. "You should be dead," Sojin said matter-of-factly. "But since you're not, I guess you can go back in an hour. Take these pain pills and try not to bleed on the controls." Du-Hyeon smiled and took the pills. "Thanks, Doc." This was a normal conversation on a human warship. Death was always close, but they kept working anyway. Sojin had seen worse injuries in previous battles. The crew had learned to function with damage that would kill most other creatures. In the ship's engine room, Mi-young crawled through a maintenance tunnel. The space was filled with deadly radiation from the damaged reactors. Her radiation badge was already bright red, warning of dangerous exposure. but she needed to fix the engines. Woojin, hand me that plasma torch, she called to her assistant. Woojin passed her the tool. His face was pale from radiation sickness, but his hands were steady. Young, the radiation levels in here are lethal. I know, she replied, starting to cut through a damaged pipe. But if we don't fix this, we'll drift here until we die anyway. Better to die trying. The alien sensors recorded all of this. SciFi watched the readings with growing horror. The creatures were working in conditions that would kill his people. In minutes, but they acted like it was completely normal. Admiral, SciFi said quietly, I recommend we approach with extreme caution. These beings appear to have a very high tolerance for physical trauma. Veltar studied the scan data. The creatures' bodies were full of old scars and healed injuries. Their bones showed signs of being broken and healed multiple times. Their blood contained chemicals that his species used only in medical emergencies. Are they in distress? Veltar asked. No, Admiral. They appear to be conducting normal operations despite their injuries. On the human bridge, an alarm sounded. Taemin looked at his screen and turned to his captain. Sir, we have a large ship approaching. Design unknown. They're scanning us. Hyanwu wiped blood from his eyes and stood up straight. Any weapons lock? No, sir. They seem to be just watching us. Open a communication channel. Let's see if they're friendly. Taemin worked at his damaged console. Channel open, Captain. Hyanwu activated the ship's main communicator. His voice was calm and professional despite his injuries. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Hyanwu of the United Earthship Indomitable. We are experiencing technical difficulties but pose no threat. Please identify yourselves. The message reached the alien ship in their own language, translated by their computers. Veltar listened to the transmission. The creature's voice was steady and controlled. There was no fear or panic, despite their obviously desperate situation. They. Sound ... calm, Veltar observed. Too calm, SciFi replied. Admiral, no species remains this composed when facing death. Either they are incredibly brave or ... or what? Or they are used to being in mortal danger, Veltar considered this. In all his years of commanding ships, he had never encountered a species that treated near-death situations so casually. His own crew would be panicking if their ship was this badly damaged. Send a response, Veltar ordered. Tell them we mean no harm and offer assistance. The communication went out to the human ship. Hyanwu received the message and smiled slightly. His crew looked at him expectantly. They're offering to help, he announced. Seems like we found some friendly neighbors. The bridge crew relaxed slightly. But they kept working at their stations, ready for anything. In their experience first, contact with alien species could go either way. They hoped for the best, but prepared for the worst. This was their first mistake in dealing with humanity. They thought the humans were weak because their ship was damaged. They thought the humans needed help because they were injured. They had no idea that what they were seeing was actually humanity at its most dangerous. A wounded human was still a human. And humans, as the galaxy would soon learn, were the most terrifying predators in the universe. Science Officer SciFi stared at his screen in disbelief. The biological scan data from the human ship made no sense. He ran the scan again, then a third time. The results were always the same. These creatures should be dead. Admiral, SciFi called across the bridge. You need to see this immediately. Admiral Veltar approached the science station. His four arms moved nervously as he looked at the data. What am I looking at? The detailed biological scans of their crew, SciFi explained. Admiral, according to our instruments, 60% of their crew has injuries that should be fatal. Broken bones, internal bleeding, radiation poisoning, severe burns. Yet, they continue to work normally. Veltar studied the readings. In his species, a single broken bone meant weeks of recovery. Internal bleeding required immediate surgery. Radiation exposure at the level shown would kill most galactic species within hours. Perhaps their biology is different, Veltar suggested. Maybe they are naturally more resistant to damage. SciFi pulled up more detailed scans. Look at this, Admiral. This creature here has 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and internal bleeding. But watch what he does. The scan showed Du Haiyan at his weapons station. Despite his injuries, his hands moved quickly and precisely across the controls. His aim was perfect as he ran diagnostic tests on the ship's guns. He showed no signs of pain or weakness. Impossible, Veltar whispered. There's more, HFY continued. Look at their medical officer. The screen showed Dr. Sojin working in the medical bay. Her left arm hung useless in a sling, clearly broken. But she used her right hand to perform complex medical procedures on injured crew members. She worked quickly and efficiently, saving lives while she herself needed medical attention. She should be unconscious from pain, HFY said. But she acts like the injury doesn't exist. Veltar watched as Sojin finished treating a patient. The patient had burns covering half his body, yet he sat up and thanked her politely before walking back to his duty station. They're not healing, Veltar observed. They're just ignoring their injuries. Exactly, Admiral, and look at this. The scan focused on Sergeant J1 leading a damage control team. He was working in a section of the ship that had been breached by enemy fire. The area was exposed to the vacuum of space. Deadly radiation leaked from damaged systems. J1 wore only a basic environmental suit. The suit was damaged in several places. Through the holes, space was slowly killing him. But he continued to direct his team as they repaired critical systems. The radiation levels in that area would kill our people in minutes, HFY reported. He's been working there for over an hour. How is he still alive? I don't know, Admiral, but watch his team. The other humans in J1's team were in similar condition. Their suits were damaged. They breathed air that was full of toxic chemicals. Several had pieces of metal sticking out of their bodies from the battle. But they worked together like a perfect machine. One human held a heavy metal beam while another welded it in place. The welder's helmet was cracked, exposing his face to the bright welding flame. He should have been blinded, but he continued his work without stopping. They don't seem to feel pain, Veltar said slowly. Oh, they feel it, HFY corrected. Look at their brain scans. Their pain receptors are very active. They're in constant agony. They just don't let it stop them. This was the most terrifying thing of all. The aliens could understand a species that felt no pain. But these humans felt everything, and they kept working anyway. They experienced the full horror of their injuries, but refused to give up. In the human ship's engine room, Mi-young worked on the damaged quantum drive. The radiation levels around her were lethal. Her Geiger counter clicked constantly, measuring doses that would kill most species instantly. She had already absorbed enough radiation to guarantee her death within days. But she needed to fix the engines first. Her crew depended on her. The ship depended on her. Woo-jin, pass me that quantum spanner, she called to her assistant. Woo-jin was in even worse condition. Blood ran from his nose and ears. His skin was turning red from radiation burns. But he handed her the tool without complaint. Mi-young, he said quietly, the radiation is cooking us alive. I know, she replied, continuing her work. But we'll be cooked and dead if we don't get the engines working. At least this way we might save the ship. The alien sensors recorded this conversation. HFY translated it for Admiral Veltar. Both aliens stared at each other in horror. They know they're dying, Veltar said. And they don't care, HFY finished. The scan moved to other parts of the human ship. Everywhere the same pattern. Repeated, humans with terrible injuries continued their duties. They worked through pain that would leave other species unconscious. They functioned with damage that should have been impossible to survive. Navigation Officer Haijin plotted escape routes while blood ran down her face from a head wound. Her vision was blurred from a concussion, but her calculations were perfect. She worked with the precision of a computer despite her brain injury. Weapons. Officer Jin-A ran diagnostics on torpedo systems while her left hand was completely useless. Several fingers were broken and bent at impossible angles. She simply used her right hand and continued working as if nothing was wrong. Admiral, HFY said, his voice shaking, I've been analyzing their blood chemistry. They have drugs in their systems that would be lethal to us. Combat stimulants, pain suppressors, and healing accelerators. Drugs to help them fight? No, Admiral. These aren't combat drugs. They're survival drugs. Chemicals that keep them alive and functional when they should already be dead. The scan showed the human bloodstream in detail. It was full of artificial chemicals and natural compounds that worked together to keep the body functioning. Even their blood was designed for warfare. Look at their bone structure, SciFi continued. See these marks? Old fractures that have healed? Admiral, every single human on that ship has been severely injured multiple times in their life. Veltar studied the bone scans. The human skeletons told a story of violence and recovery. Broken arms, cracked ribs, fractured skulls. All healed, but the marks remained. They'd been fighting their entire lives, Veltar realized. And not just fighting, Admiral, winning. These aren't the bones of victims. These are the bones of survivors. The most disturbing discovery came when they scanned the humans' brains. The neural patterns showed something that made both aliens step back from their screens. What am I looking at? Veltar asked. Their brain activity during combat situations, SciFi explained. Admiral, when they fight, when they're injured, when they're dying, they become more focused, more efficient. Pain and danger make them stronger. The brain scans showed humans in battle. As their injuries increased, their performance actually improved. They thought faster, aimed better, and made smarter decisions. When they were hurt and bleeding, it's like they were designed for war, Veltar whispered. No, Admiral, SciFi corrected. They designed themselves for war. Through countless generations of fighting, they evolved into perfect killing machines. And the terrifying part is, they don't even realize it. The final scan showed Captain Haiyan Wu on the bridge. He had multiple injuries, blood loss, and probable internal damage. By alien standards, he should have been in a medical facility under heavy sedation. Instead, he stood calmly at his command station, making decisions that affected the lives of nearly 1,000 crew members. His voice was steady as he gave orders. His mind was clear despite his physical trauma. Admiral, SciFi said quietly, I recommend we withdraw immediately. These creatures are too dangerous to contact. Veltar considered this. The human ship was damaged and helpless. Their weapons were offline. They posed no immediate threat. But something about their casual attitude toward mortal injury filled him with dread. No, he decided. We will continue to observe, but maintain maximum distance. If they make any aggressive moves, we retreat immediately. Neither alien realized they had just made a fatal error in judgment. They thought the humans were dangerous because of their ability to survive injury. They had no idea that the humans' greatest weapon wasn't their toughness, it was their kindness. And when the humans inevitably tried to help their new alien friends, the galaxy would learn why kindness from a species of predators was the most terrifying thing in the universe. Intelligence Officer Kethmer worked at his station with growing unease. Admiral Veltar had ordered him to scan the human ship's computer systems to learn more about these strange creatures. What he found made his blood run cold. Admiral, Kethmer called across the bridge, I have accessed their historical databases. What did you learn? Veltar asked, moving to the intelligence station. Kethmer's tentacles moved nervously across his controls. Sir, I don't think you're going to believe this. According to their records, these humans have been at war for their entire recorded history. That's impossible. No species can survive constant warfare. Not constant war with others, Admiral. War with themselves. The screen showed human historical records. Images of battles, weapons, and destruction filled the display. Kethmer had translated thousands of documents, and every single one told the same story. Look at this, Kethmer sighed, pulling up a timeline. In just the last century of their history, they fought 2 global wars that killed over 100 million of their own kind. Veltar stared at the numbers. 100 million? That's impossible. No species would continue to exist after losses like that. They not only survived, Admiral, they thrived. Each war made them stronger. Every conflict led to new weapons, better tactics, and more efficient ways to kill. The historical records showed the progression of human warfare. They started with simple weapons like clubs and spears. Within a few thousand years, they had developed guns, explosives, and chemical weapons. Their technology advanced faster during wars than during peace. Here, Kethmer said, showing a detailed analysis. This war lasted only 6 years, but during that time they invented dozens of new ways to kill each other. Rockets, jet engines, radar, computers, all developed for war. Veltar studied the data. His species had taken millions of years to develop. Space travel. The humans had gone from simple flying machines to space rockets in less than 50 years, driven by their desire to build better weapons. "Show me their current military," Veltar ordered. Kethmer accessed more recent files. The display showed massive armies, fleets of warships, and weapons that could destroy entire planets. But the most disturbing part was how casually the humans discussed these things. "Listen to this," Kethmer said, playing an audio file from the human ship. On the recording, Navigation Officer Hyjin was talking to her bridge crew about previous battles. Her voice was calm and friendly, like she was discussing the weather. "Remember the siege of Proxima Station?" Hyjin said. "We lost 3,000 Marines in the first wave alone. Good thing we had backup plans." "Yeah," replied another crew. "Remember, though the orbital bombardment was a bit excessive, we turned half the planet into glass." "Had to be done," Hyjin said with a laugh. "Can't leave enemies alive to cause trouble later." The alien bridge fell silent. Kethmer translated the conversation for those who hadn't understood it directly. The humans were talking about killing 3,000 of their own soldiers and destroying half a planet like it was a minor tactical decision. "They treat mass death as normal," Veltar said slowly. "It gets worse, Admiral," Kethmer replied. "Look at their casualty reports." The screen showed statistics from human military operations. Numbers that made the aliens step back in horror. Single battles with death tolls in the hundreds of thousands. Wars that killed significant percentages of entire populations. But the most terrifying part was how the humans responded to these losses. They didn't retreat or surrender. They didn't seek peace. They adapted, learned, and came back stronger. "Here's a report from one of their commanders," Kethmer said, reading from the screen. "We lost 90% of our forces in the first assault. Acceptable losses." "Proceeding with Phase 2, acceptable losses," Veltar repeated. 90%. "Casualties are acceptable?" "To humans, yes. As long as they achieve their objective, any level of death is acceptable." The intelligence scan had also accessed the humans' tactical databases. Kethmer showed Admiral Veltar battle plans that made his 4 stomachs turn. "This is their standard invasion protocol," Kethmer explained. "First, they destroy all orbital defenses. Then they eliminate civilian infrastructure, power plants, water treatment, food distribution. They don't just defeat their enemies, Admiral. They make it impossible for them to recover." The plans showed methodical destruction designed to cripple civilizations for generations. The humans didn't just win wars, they made sure their enemies could never fight again. "Look at this section," Kethmer continued. "Biological warfare protocols. They have weapons that target specific genetic markers. They can design plagues that kill only their enemies while leaving their own people unharmed." Veltar felt sick. His own species had banned biological weapons thousands of years ago as too horrible to use. The humans had turned them into an art form. "And this," Kethmer said, showing another file. "Psychological warfare tactics. They don't just kill enemy soldiers, Admiral. They break their minds first." The file showed human techniques for destroying enemy morale, terror tactics, propaganda, and psychological operations designed to make enemies surrender before the fighting even began. But even more disturbing was how the humans used these techniques on themselves. Their own soldiers were trained using methods that would be considered torture by most galactic species on the human ship. Commander Sunho was reviewing battle damage reports with his tactical team. His voice was professional and calm as he discussed their recent fight with pirates. "We took heavy casualties in sectors 7 through 12, Sung-ho reported. "Lost 40% of our Marines and most of our fighter pilots." "Acceptable. Losses for the tactical situation," replied his assistant. "The pirates are completely eliminated, no survivors." "Good," Sung-ho said with satisfaction. "Make sure we salvage their weapons. Might be useful for future engagements." The aliens. Listen to this conversation in growing horror. The humans had just lost nearly half their military personnel, and they were already planning their next battle. "Admiral," Tethmor said quietly, "I've been analyzing their psychological profiles. These humans don't fight because they have to. They fight because they want to explain. Look at their brain chemistry during combat. Most species show fear, stress, and reluctance when faced with violence. Humans show excitement, focus, and satisfaction. The brain scans showed human neural activity during battle. Instead of the terror and revulsion that normal species experience during violence, humans showed patterns similar to pleasure and achievement. They enjoy killing, Veltar said in disbelief. "Not exactly, Admiral. They enjoy winning. And for humans, winning means completely destroying their enemies." Kethmore accessed more historical files. The records showed that even during rare periods of peace, humans found ways to fight. They created sports that simulated combat. They wrote stories about war. They studied famous battles like works of art. War isn't something they do, Admiral. War is what they are. The cultural analysis revealed something even more disturbing. Human society was built around conflict. Their governments, their economics, their social structures, everything was designed to support warfare. "Look at their civilian population," Kethmore said, showing demographic data. "Even their non-military citizens are trained in combat. They call it education, but it's really warrior conditioning. Human schools taught children to compete aggressively. Human businesses operated like military campaigns. Human entertainment glorified violence and conflict. Their entire civilization is a military organization," Veltar realized. "Yes, Admiral. And now they have space travel." The final piece of the intelligence report was the most terrifying. Kethmor had accessed human expansion plans, their goals for exploring and colonizing the galaxy. "They're not coming to trade or explore, Admiral. They're coming to conquer." The plans showed systematic expansion throughout known space. Humans identified resource-rich worlds, strategic locations, and potential threats. They planned to claim everything they could reach. "But they're offering us friendship?" Valtar protested weakly. "No, Admiral, they're offering us surrender. The choice between being their allies or being their enemies. And we've seen what happens to their enemies." On the human ship, Captain Hyan Wu received a report from his intelligence officer. The alien ship had been scanning their databases, trying to learn about humanity. "Should we block their access, Captain?" The intelligence officer asked. Hyan Wu considered this. "No, let them look. Better they understand what they're dealing with from the beginning. Sir, some of our historical records might concern them." "Good," Hyan Wu replied with a slight smile. "Honest neighbors make the best neighbors." The alien bridge had fallen completely silent. Every crew member stared at the intelligence reports. In horror, they had expected to find a primitive species in need of help. Instead, they had discovered a civilization of warriors who had turned killing into a science. "Admiral," Kethmor said quietly, "I recommend we leave immediately and report this to the Galactic Council. These humans represent a threat to all civilized life." But even as he said it, Kethmor knew it was too late. The humans had already seen them, already offered friendship. And if human history was any guide, refusing that friendship would be the last mistake they ever made. Chief Science Officer Nathira had been studying the human weapons for 3 hours. What she found made her wish she had never looked. Her 6 eyes stared at the scan results while her breathing apparatus clicked nervously. "Admiral Veltar?" She called across the bridge. "You must see this immediately." Admiral Veltar approached her station. The science displays showed detailed scans of the human ship's weapon systems. Even damaged, the firepower was beyond anything he had seen. "What am I looking at?" Veltar asked. "Death, Admiral. Pure, efficient death." Nathira pulled up the scan of the human ship's main guns. The weapons appeared crude compared to elegant galactic technology, but the readings showed their true power. "These kinetic cannons," Nathira explained, "fire projectiles at 30% of light speed. Each shot carries the force of a small nuclear weapon. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone. They solve that by using multiple fusion reactors for each gun. Admiral, a single salvo from this damaged ship could crack a moon in half." Veltar studied the weapon specifications. The humans had built guns that could shatter planets, but they were mounted on what appeared to be a simple patrol vessel. "Show me their defensive systems," Veltar ordered. Nathira switched to another display. The human ship's armor and shields looked basic, but the readings told a different story. Their hull is made of neutronium steel composite, dense enough to stop most energy weapons, but look at this, Admiral. She highlighted sections of the ship's armor that had been damaged in battle. Instead of showing weakness, the damage revealed the armor's true nature. The outer layer is designed to break away under attack, but underneath is reactive armor that explodes outward when hit. And under that is self-repairing nano-armor that can rebuild itself during battle. 3 layers of armor? 5 layers, Admiral. The scan shows 2 more defensive systems we haven't identified yet. Veltar felt his stomachs twist. His own ship had the most advanced defenses in the galaxy. A single layer of energy shielding. That could stop most weapons. The humans had built their ship to survive attacks that would vaporize entire fleets. What about their missiles? Veltar asked. Nathira's breathing apparatus clicked faster. "Admiral, I recommend we move to maximum distance before I show you this." She pulled up the scan of the human torpedo bays. The missiles looked simple, but the warhead specifications made both aliens step back from the screen. "Antimatter warheads," Nathira said quietly. "Each torpedo carries enough antimatter to sterilize a continent. How many do they have?" 347 loaded, Admiral, with manufacturing facilities to build more during battle. Veltar's forearms began to shake. A single antimatter torpedo could destroy his ship completely. The humans carried enough firepower to eliminate hundreds of vessels like his. "But antimatter is incredibly dangerous," Veltar protested. "Surely they wouldn't risk carrying so much on a single ship." "Admiral, look at their storage systems." The scan showed the human antimatter containment units. They were built like bunkers with multiple backup systems and fail-safes. But the most disturbing part was how casually the human crew worked around them. On the human ship, Weapons Officer Jin'e was running routine maintenance on the torpedo systems. Despite her broken fingers, she worked efficiently among weapons that could destroy worlds. "Changmin," she called to her assistant, "check the antimatter flow rates on tubes 7 through 12. Changmin moved to the control panel. He was working with technology that most galactic species would handle with extreme caution. To him, it was just another day at work. "Flow rates are normal," Changmin reported, "though we're running low on antimatter, down to about 2,000 tons. 2,000 tons, Jin'e repeated. "That's barely enough for a minor engagement. Make a note for resupply when we reach port." The aliens listened to this conversation in growing horror. 2,000 tons of antimatter was enough to destroy multiple star systems. The humans considered it barely adequate for a small fight. "Admiral," Nathira said, her voice shaking, "I've identified their other weapon systems." She showed him scans of devices that defied galactic weapons treaties. Biological warfare dispensers that could poison entire planets. Chemical weapons that could kill all life in a solar system. Gravity bombs that could collapse stars. "These weapons are banned by every civilized species," Veltar said. "Humans apparently didn't get that message, Admiral." The most terrifying discovery was the human manufacturing systems. The ship carried automated factories that could produce weapons during battle. As they fought, they could build more missiles, more ammunition, more instruments of destruction. "Look at this," Nathira said, showing internal scans of the ship. "They have mining equipment that can process asteroids into raw materials. Fabrication units that can build new weapons from those materials. Admiral, this ship is a mobile weapons factory." In the human engineering section, Wu Jin was working on the fusion reactors. The power systems that kept the ship running were the same systems that powered weapons of mass destruction. "Mi, Young," he called to his chief engineer, "Reactor 7. Is showing stress fractures. Should I shut it down?" Mi Young looked at the readings. A damaged fusion reactor was incredibly dangerous. In any other species ship, it would mean immediate evacuation and emergency repairs. "Can it hold together for another 6 hours?" she asked. "Probably. Then leave it running. We need the power for weapon systems." The aliens recorded this conversation with growing dread. The humans were willing to risk nuclear explosion rather than reduce their fighting capability. "Admiral," Nathira said quietly, "I've been analyzing their reactor design. These aren't just power plants." "What do you mean?" "They're designed to overload on command. Every fusion reactor on that ship can be turned into a nuclear weapon." Veltar stared at the technical readouts. The human ship wasn't just armed with weapons. The ship itself was a weapon. If cornered, the humans could turn their entire vessel into a massive bomb. How much damage could they do if they overloaded everything? Nathira calculated quickly. The explosion would destroy everything within a light-year radius, Admiral. Everything? Everything. Planets, stars, space stations. The blast would sterilize multiple solar systems. The scan revealed more disturbing details. The human ship carried backup weapon systems in case their main guns were destroyed. Emergency armaments hidden throughout the vessel. Even their repair equipment could be turned into weapons. "Look at these maintenance robots," Nathira said, showing small machines moving through the ship's corridors. "They're designed to fix battle damage. But they can also be programmed to build explosive devices from spare parts. Their repair systems are weapon systems. Everything on that ship serves a military purpose, Admiral. Their communications equipment can jam enemy signals. Their navigation systems can guide missiles. Their life support can produce chemical weapons." The final revelation came when Nathira scanned the human crew's personal equipment. Every human carried individual weapons that would be considered military grade by most species. "Their sidearms fire explosive rounds," she reported. "Their personal armor can stop energy weapons. Admiral, their ordinary crew members are equipped better than our elite soldiers." But the most disturbing discovery was in the human crew quarters. Personal belongings that revealed the true nature of human society. "Look at this," Nathira said, showing scans of individual rooms. "Books about military strategy. Entertainment programs about warfare. Even their art celebrates violence and conquest." The humans didn't just carry weapons. They lived for weapons. Their entire culture revolved around perfecting the art of destruction on the human bridge. Captain Hyan Wu was reviewing their weapon status with his tactical officer. "How many functioning weapon systems do we have left?" Hyan Wu asked. Commander Seung-ho checked his displays. "Main guns are offline, but secondary batteries are operational. We have 60% of our missiles left. Point defense systems are at full capacity." "What about emergency protocols?" "All backup systems are green, Captain. If we need to scuttle the ship, we can take out anything within half a light year." Hyan Wu nodded with satisfaction. Even damaged and helpless, his ship remained a threat to anyone who might wish them harm. "Admiral," Nathira said, her voice barely a whisper, "I've completed the full weapons analysis." "And? This isn't a warship, Admiral." Veltar looked confused. "What do you mean?" "According to their classification system, this is a destroyer. A small, fast ship designed for reconnaissance and patrol duties." "Small?" "Admiral, this is one of their lighter vessels. Their actual warships are much larger and more heavily armed." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The ship that could destroy solar systems was considered a minor patrol craft by human standards. Somewhere in space were human vessels that made this one look like a toy. How many ships do they have? Veltar asked. Nathira checked the human database. According to their records, this is one of over 2,000 destroyers in their fleet. They also have cruisers, battleships, and something they call dreadnoughts. What's a dreadnought? I don't know, Admiral. But if their destroyers can crack planets, I don't want to find out. As the aliens stared at their screens in horror, they began to understand the true scale of what they faced. Humanity wasn't just a war. Xenopsychologist Ithalon had studied thousands of species during her career. She understood the minds of traders, explorers, and even some aggressive races. But the human psychological profiles filled her with a terror she had never experienced. Before, Admiral, Ithalon called from her station, I have completed the behavioral analysis of the human crew. Admiral Veltar approached her workstation. The displays showed complex psychological data and behavioral patterns from the human ship. What did you discover? Veltar asked, Ithalon's tentacles writhed nervously as she explained her findings. Admiral, these humans don't think like individuals. They operate as a collective hunting organism. Explain. Watch this interaction between their crew members, Ithalon said, playing a recording from the human ship. On the human bridge, Lieutenant Ba-Oram was coordinating with her squad during damage control operations. Her voice was calm and professional, but the aliens could detect something deeper in the communication patterns. Team 2, advance to Section 12, Ba-Oram ordered. Team 3, cover the flanks. If you encounter resistance, eliminate it completely. Copy that, Lieutenant. Came the responses from her squad members. The humans moved through their ship with perfect coordination. They didn't need detailed orders or constant communication. Each person understood their role in the larger mission. Notice how they communicate, Ithalon explained. Minimal words, maximum efficiency. They're operating on pack hunting instincts that have been refined over millions of years. Veltar watched the humans work together. They moved like a single organism with many parts. When one person needed help, others responded instantly without being asked. This is more than training, Veltar observed. Much more, Admiral. This is evolutionary programming. Look at their brain scans during group activities. The displays showed human neural patterns during coordinated tasks. Their brains synchronized in ways that most species could never achieve. They shared information through subtle body language and micro-expressions that created a form of silent communication. They're reading each other's minds, Veltar said in amazement. Not exactly, but close. They've evolved to function as a pack predator. Each individual human is dangerous, but together they become something much more terrifying. Ithalon showed him recordings of the humans during their recent battle with pirates. The crew had worked together with terrifying efficiency. No wasted motion, no confusion, no hesitation. Watch Captain Hyanwu during combat. Ithalon said. The recording showed the human captain on his bridge during the battle. He gave orders quickly and clearly, but more importantly, his crew anticipated his needs. They responded to his intentions before he even spoke them. He doesn't command them, Veltar realized. He guides them. Exactly, Admiral. Human leadership isn't about control. It's about directing pack behavior toward a common goal. The psychological analysis revealed something even more disturbing. The humans didn't just work together during emergencies. Their entire social structure was based on pack dynamics that had been adapted for technological warfare. Look at their hierarchy, Ithalon said, showing organizational charts from the human ship. It appears to be a traditional military structure, but it's actually based on pack social ordering. The human command structure looks simple on the surface. Officers gave orders to enlisted personnel in a clear chain of command, but the psychological analysis showed the real relationships. Each human knows their exact place in the pack, Ithalon explained. But they can also function independently when separated from the group. It's the perfect combination of individual capability and collective action. In the human ship's marine section, Captain Kyung-soo was briefing his troops on boarding procedures. His words were calm and professional, but the aliens could detect the underlying pack dynamics. "Remember, once we board an enemy ship, we own that ship," Kyung-soo told his Marines. "Every room, every corridor, every hiding place belongs to us. Anyone who resists dies. Anyone who surrenders dies. Anyone who runs dies." "Understood, Captain," his Marines replied in unison. The aliens listening to this briefing felt their blood freeze. The humans weren't planning to capture enemy ships. They were planning to exterminate everyone on board. Their boarding procedures, Ithalon said quietly, are actually pack hunting strategies adapted for spacecraft. "What do you mean?" "Watch their tactical planning." The display showed human Marines preparing for boarding operations. They moved like wolves preparing to hunt. They identified escape routes and blocked them. They planned coordinated attacks that would drive enemies into kill zones. They don't fight to win, Admiral. They fight to eliminate all threats completely. The psychological profiles revealed that humans didn't see other species as equals or even as enemies. They saw them as prey or predators with no middle ground. "Look at how they classify other species," Ithalon said, showing human intelligence files. "Everything is either a threat to be eliminated or a resource to be used." The human files contained detailed assessments of every known galactic species. But instead of diplomatic or cultural information, the files focused on weaknesses and vulnerabilities. "They've already identified the best ways to kill every species in the galaxy," Ithalon said with horror. "But they're offering us friendship," Veltar protested. "No, Admiral. They're offering us pack membership, the choice between being inside their hunting group or being hunted by it." The most terrifying aspect of human psychology was how they viewed conflict. Most species fought to achieve specific goals. Humans fought until their enemies no longer existed. "Watch this training exercise," Ithalon said, showing recordings from the human ship's combat simulators. Human crew members practiced fighting scenarios in virtual reality. But their simulations didn't end when they achieved tactical objectives. They continued until every simulated enemy was dead. "Total extermination," Veltar whispered. "It's not cruelty, Admiral. It's efficiency. Humans learned long ago that leaving enemies alive just means fighting them again later." The psychological analysis showed that humans bonded through shared violence. Their friendships were forged in combat. Their trust was built by fighting side by side. "Look at their recreation activities," Ithalon said, showing scans of the human crew during off-duty time. Even when relaxing, humans engaged in competitive activities that simulated combat. They played games that required strategic thinking, physical confrontation, and elimination of opponents. "Everything they do prepares them for war," Ithalon observed. The aliens watched as human crew members engaged in what they called friendly competition. Boxing matches where they beat each other unconscious. Strategic games where they practiced destroying civilizations. Even their music and stories celebrated victory through violence. "They enjoy it," Veltar said in disbelief. "More than that, Admiral, they need it. Violence and competition are essential to human psychological health. Without conflict, they become depressed and dysfunctional." This was perhaps the most disturbing discovery of all. Humans didn't fight because they had to. They fought because they were psychologically incomplete without warfare. "Their brains produce pleasure chemicals during combat," Ithalon explained, showing neurological scans. "They literally become addicted to violence, but the addiction served a purpose. It made them better fighters. It drove them to perfect their weapons and tactics. It ensured that each generation of humans was more dangerous than the last." "Admiral," Ithalon said quietly, "I've been analyzing their expansion patterns. The way humans spread through space follows classic pack hunting territory expansion." "Show me." The display showed human colonies and trade routes throughout their local space. At first glance, it looked like normal exploration and settlement. But the psychological analysis revealed the true pattern. They identify resource-rich areas and establish forward bases, Ithalon explained. Then they systematically eliminate any potential threats in the region. Finally, they bring in colonists to claim the territory permanently. Like wolves claiming hunting grounds, Veltar realized. Exactly, Admiral. And now they've identified our space as potential territory. The human expansion plans showed systematic exploration of galactic trade routes. They were mapping defenses, identifying resources, and cataloging potential threats, all the preparation necessary for a large-scale hunting expedition. They're not exploring, Admiral. They're scouting for conquest. On the human ship, Captain. Hanwoo was meeting with his senior officers. Their discussion sounded like routine operational planning, but the aliens could detect the pack dynamics underneath. Once we reach the inner systems, Hanwoo said, we'll need to establish our position clearly. These aliens need to understand that we're not going away. Should we demonstrate our capabilities? Asked Commander Seung-ho. Not yet. Let them get comfortable with us first. Once they trust us, we'll have much better opportunities. The aliens listening to this conversation felt a chill run through their bodies. The humans were planning to infiltrate galactic society before revealing their true nature. Admiral, if Alan said, her voice barely a whisper, I don't think we can escape them. What do you mean? Look at their psychological profiles during this first contact. They're already studying us, learning our weaknesses, planning how to integrate us into their pack. Admiral Veltar stood in the center of his bridge, surrounded by displays showing the complete analysis of the human ship. Every screen told the same terrifying story. Humanity was not just another spacefaring species. They were the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever seen. Gather all department heads, Veltar ordered. Emergency council session, maximum priority. Within minutes, his senior staff assembled around the central command table. Science Officer Zephihai, Intelligence Officer Kethmore, Chief Science, Officer Nathira, and Xenopsychologist Ithalan all looked at their admiral with expressions of barely controlled fear. Report your findings, Veltar commanded. Zephihai spoke first, his voice shaking. Admiral, the humans operate with injuries that should kill them. They work in conditions that would be lethal to our species. Their biology is designed for survival in extreme combat situations. Kethmore continued the briefing. Their entire history is warfare, Admiral. They have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing their own kind. Every advancement in their civilization comes from military research. Nathira's report was even more disturbing. Their weapons are beyond anything we have seen. A single human patrol ship carries enough firepower to destroy multiple star systems, and this is considered a small vessel by their standards. Finally, Ithalan delivered the most terrifying news of all. They think like pack predators, Admiral. They evaluate every species as either prey or threat. There is no middle ground in human psychology. Veltar absorbed all of this information. Each report painted a picture of a species that should not exist. Yet the humans were real, and they were already spreading through the galaxy. Recommendations? Veltar asked. Immediate withdrawal, Zephihai said. Alert the Galactic Council. Establish a quarantine zone around human space. Impossible, Kethmore replied. They already have our ship signatures. They know we were here. Running now will mark us as hostile. Then what do you suggest? Veltar asked. Peaceful contact, Ithalan said reluctantly. Accept their offer of friendship and hope they consider us worthy of pack membership rather than elimination. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They had stumbled upon a species that could reshape the entire galaxy, and their only options were submission or destruction on the human ship. Captain Han-Woo was receiving reports from Chief Engineer Mi Young. The repairs were nearly complete, and they would soon be able to leave this dead region of space. Captain, Communications Officer Taemin called from his station. The alien ship is requesting permission to approach. Han-Woo considered this. The aliens had been keeping their distance while scanning his ship. Now they wanted to come closer. Either they had learned enough to feel safe, or they had learned enough to be terrified. Grant permission, Han-Woo decided. But keep our weapons powered up just in case. Understood, sir. The alien ship moved closer, its sleek hull gleaming in the starlight. It was beautiful by galactic standards, all smooth curves and elegant design. To human eyes, it looked fragile and impractical. Admiral Veltar activated his ship's communication system. The message that went out to the human vessel was carefully crafted to sound friendly and non-threatening. Captain Hyun-woo of the United. Earthship Indomitable. This is Admiral Veltar of the hegemony vessel Luminous Dawn. We come in peace and offer our assistance with your repairs. The response came back quickly. Captain Hyun-woo's voice was warm and genuinely grateful. Admiral Veltar, this is Captain Hyun-woo. We appreciate your offer of assistance. Our repairs are nearly complete, but we would welcome the opportunity to meet our new neighbors. We would be honored to host a diplomatic meeting, Veltar replied. Perhaps a small delegation from each ship? Excellent idea, Admiral. We'll prepare a shuttle. As the communication ended, both ships began preparing for the most important first contact in galactic history. Neither side fully understood what they were about to encounter. On the human ship, Captain Han-woo selected his diplomatic team carefully. Commander Sung-ho would provide military expertise. Dr. Sojin could handle any medical emergencies. Lieutenant Bo-ram would serve as security. Remember, Hyun-woo told his team, these aliens seem friendly, but we don't know their intentions. Stay alert and be ready for anything. Should we bring gifts? Dr. Sojin asked. Yes, but nothing that could be seen as a weapon. Cultural exchange items only. On the alien ship, Admiral Veltar was making similar preparations. But his briefing was very different. Under no circumstances are you to appear threatening, Veltar told his diplomatic team. These humans are apex predators. Any sign of hostility could trigger their pack-hunting instincts. What if they try to harm us? Asked his security officer. Then we die, Veltar replied bluntly. But more importantly, we die in a way that doesn't give them reason to view our entire species as a threat. The human shuttle approached the alien ship with typical human efficiency. It was small, functional, and bristling with hidden defensive systems. To alien eyes, it looked like a mechanical shark. Captain Hyun-woo and his team were greeted in the alien shuttle bay by Admiral Veltar and his diplomatic staff. The first few moments of contact were crucial. Welcome aboard the Luminous Dawn, Admiral Veltar said, his translation device converting his words into perfect English. Thank you for your hospitality, Captain Hyun-woo replied. We're grateful for your assistance. The humans looked around the alien ship with professional interest. They noted the elegant design, the advanced technology, and the lack of obvious defensive measures. To them, it was a beautiful but impractical vessel. Your ship is remarkable, Hyun-woo said diplomatically. The engineering is very sophisticated. Your vessel is ... impressive as well, Veltar replied carefully. Very robust construction. As they toured the alien ship, both sides learned about each other. The humans saw a civilization that valued art, beauty, and peaceful cooperation. The aliens saw predators evaluating their surroundings for tactical advantages. In the alien conference room, formal first contact protocols began. Representatives from both species sat around an elegant table designed for diplomatic negotiations. We represent the galactic hegemony, Admiral Veltar explained. A peaceful alliance of over 300 species dedicated to trade, exploration, and mutual cooperation. Sounds wonderful, Captain Hyun-woo replied. Humanity is always interested in making new friends. The word friends made several aliens flinch involuntarily. They had studied human psychology enough to know that human friendship often meant pack membership, which required absolute loyalty and shared violence. Perhaps we could establish trade relations, Veltar suggested carefully. Absolutely, Hyun-woo agreed. We have much to offer. Advanced metallurgy, fusion technology, weapons, systems. The casual mention of weapon systems as trade goods made the aliens realize that humans saw military technology as normal commerce. What would humanity want in return? Veltar asked. Nothing too complicated, Hyun-woo said with a smile. Charts, resource surveys, information about other species. Just basic getting to know you stuff. The aliens recognized this for what it was. Humans wanted intelligence information that would help them plan future expansion. They were already thinking several moves ahead. Of course, Veltar agreed, knowing he had no choice. As the meeting continued, both sides maintained polite diplomatic language. But underneath, each group was conducting their own analysis. The humans saw a vast galactic civilization that was technologically advanced but militarily weak. Potential allies who could provide valuable resources and information. Or potential threats who might need to be neutralized eventually. The aliens saw apex predators, who were already planning their expansion through galactic space. A species that could either be their greatest allies or their ultimate destroyers, depending on how this first contact developed. We should arrange for regular diplomatic exchanges, Hyunwoo suggested. Perhaps establish embassies in each other's territory. An excellent idea, Veltar agreed, though his stomach churned at the thought of human embassies throughout galactic space. The meeting concluded with expressions of mutual friendship and cooperation. Both sides agreed to maintain regular contact and work toward closer relations. As the human shuttle departed, Admiral Veltar immediately called an emergency session of his command staff. Send a priority message to the Galactic Council, he ordered. Classification, species-level extinction threat. Sir? His communications officer asked in confusion. You heard correctly. Inform the Council that we have made contact with a species that could destroy galactic civilization. Should we recommend military action? Absolutely not, Veltar said sharply. Under no circumstances should anyone attempt to fight the humans. Our only hope is to convince them that we are valuable allies rather than threats to be eliminated. The message that went out to the Galactic Council was the most important communication in the history of their civilization. To all Council members, humanity has achieved spaceflight. They are apex predators with technology capable of destroying star systems. They operate as pack hunters with perfect coordination. They view all other species as either allies or threats. Recommend immediate diplomatic engagement. Under no circumstances should humanity be given reason to view us as enemies. This is not a request. This is a survive.